Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jamie Priest, and the subject for today's webinar is AI-powered quality assurance with DocuWare. I am joined by David Milan, who's the sales director for DocuWare in the UK, and Robert Fulham, who is our channel manager here in the UK. And it's great to have them on board because this kind of just follows on from a previous webinar that we've had, and we're going to be asking them to kind of recap on that webinar. Today is going to be a follow-on from that. We're going to discuss a few things around quality assurance and quality management, predominantly the CAPA process and how that fits into DocuWare. This is really applicable to a wide range of industries and organizations where quality management, compliance, risk mitigation, all of those factors are quite critical. And it's particularly relevant to regulated industries where there has to be a strict adherence to these things. Manufacturing, engineering, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, food and beverage, automotive, anywhere where ISO compliance is required and other compliance standards need to be met. This kind of applies to across those industries. Onto our agenda for today. Like I said, we're going to recap on the previous webinar. We're going to just discuss the challenges that we'll be focusing on today. We'll be looking at compliance with DocuWare and how that fits into the solution and to your particular business processes. We'll go through a bit of a live demo where we'll show you a bit of the system and and you can see for yourselves things that can be implemented, and then we'll wrap it up with any questions. I do encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar. And if we don't get to them in the middle of the webinar, we'll certainly get to them at the end. And then, of course, we'll have our contact details on screen at the end so that you can contact us directly for any further questions that you may have. So, David, you ran the previous webinar with Robert. It was largely around policy document management and SOP management. There was an element of generating these documents. Maybe you could just recap on that webinar, and I will show a little bit of it in the demo, but just recap on the main topics and how that added value to different organizations.
Yeah, the previous webinar was very interesting because we came in there with the idea of chatting to people how they would manage their policy documents in general, right? And this is related to ISO, mostly ISO companies, not only that needs to keep certain policy documents, review them at a certain time. And we showed the audience how DocuWare can manage that process for you, like manage the document numbers, remind you when a document needs to be updated, and help you with the review process of these documents and how to publish the documents and how people accept these documents. So, a whole mouthful in one sentence. It was quite interesting after the webinar, however, because people started reaching out to us. They wanted a little bit more information. They wanted to know how DocuWare can help them in their quality processes in general. And that is why we decided to set up this session, right? Because people said, okay, but I've got this form that I want to fill in, and I want to report on the tasks that I need to do on a daily basis. Have people completed these tasks? How clean is my workstation, from something as simple as that, or to manufacturing? One that we've actually implemented was daily checks in solar farms to take a look at if the grass is cut and if it's at the right level, and if the cabling is laid correctly, and if there's any damage on cabling that needs to be repaired. So it's such a broad area. But I think it was quite valuable to take a look at the policy documents first, and then starting to fill onto that is how do we enforce those policies within the organization, which was seemingly to me what our customers perceive as the most important area for them.
Well, absolutely. I think that's what we're going to focus on today is what's next. We've got this policy, we've created the framework. Now, how do we follow that policy effectively?
Yep.
So that's. And yeah, we're gonna look at a bit more, a few more ways to capture data in the CAPA process and validate that against policies. Yeah, let's move on to what challenges we're going to focus. I started talking about it now. So current quality management challenges that you may have within your organization. I'm hoping that this is going to get a lot of heads nodding in the audience. paper-based, scattered CAPA forms that slow down investigations. So a lot of organizations today still have printed out pieces of paper that they need to fill out incident reports on. So we're going to look at ways in how we convert that to a digitized format, but we're also going to look at ways in how, if web forms or something like that aren't applicable to you, or your organization not ready for them, then we can still capture physical documents in a very, very smart and intelligent way. Now, following on from that is the routing of that information. So now you've created an incident report, and that needs to go to somebody for review, and it needs to go to somebody for a root cause analysis potentially, and then of course the corrective action plan needs to be put in place. If that's a manual process, there could potentially be bottlenecks, and that could be potentially be taking more time than it should. This leads to compliance questions. So is this a compliant way of doing it in today's world? And then is it trackable, not just from an audit perspective, but from an internal perspective? Can you track all your SOPs and policy documents and the acknowledgements behind them? Can you track your CAPA tasks? So we'll be looking into these different factors. Now, I know that the topic of today is AI-powered quality assurance. So we will definitely be touching on elements of AI, but maybe David, if you can just jump back in here and give us your perspective of where we're headed with AI, particularly in the quality management process.
Who knows? I mean, who knows? The stuff that we've been doing over the last couple of months or over the last year has already blown our minds, right? How can we use both discriminative AI as well as generative AI in business? And how can I feel comfortable in using it? And what we've seen is that people generally find the middle ground, right? That's on the tip of everybody's tongue. Let's not go into the joke about how to sell a pen. This is an AI pen. But the world of AI has literally opened up so many doors, because I now can get instant decisions. It's like having a couple of additional employees sitting there doing the grunt work for me and telling me only where there's any problems that I need to work on. So talking about data extraction, exact data extraction, much better OCR because it's literally reading the document, but also talking about the process automation and how can I get a generative engine to pull in a whole host of information, start doing matching for me and understanding how that works. And that generally just significantly improves the environment, right? I've got now documents with true value attached to them. So when I manage documentation, I collaborate with other people, but I'm actually collaborating with something that's just giving me significantly more information in the environment that I can work with. And that's why I'm saying we don't know where this is going. It's just going to continue improving. When we talk about business insights, which is the point that just came up, is I can now literally ask it questions related to something, right? And I don't need to take a look at a report. Tell me where's the biggest issues that we had last year. Where did we have our biggest impact issues related to incidents that was reported? Or where do we take the longest in processing information? Or where's the biggest risk within my business? These are all questions that I can ask the generative model to give me more information. So yes, it's very exciting, but I have no idea where this is going. It's already blown my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just touching on the analytics and the insights again there, I mean, having processes implemented where you have suggestions on what root causes might be based on previous data that we've captured in the system on recurring incidents or anything like that. I mean, that's hugely valuable to an organization because it does save time and it does guide a user much more closely to what the problems might be within the process. So thanks for your insights there. The sample process that we're going to be looking at today, and I'll get more into DocuWare now. This is just a conceptual process that I've put together a demo for. We're going to look at completing an incident form, a web form using DocuWare. We're going to look at if that was a physical form, how is it captured? That is going to go to a quality manager for review. The quality manager might have additional inputs like risk factors or root cause analysis and what the corrective action plan might be. That if it is a high or a high severity or critical severity incident, it might go to a plant manager for review. If it's low or moderate, maybe it goes directly back to the head of department to implement the corrective action. So, as I said, hugely conceptual. This process will vary from organization to organization, from industry to industry, but what we're here to show you is that the potential to have this implemented and configured to your business process is there. And that being said, I am going to jump straight into the demo. So I'm going to exit from that. Just logging into my VM. All right, so for those of you that were on the previous webinar, you might be very familiar with the DocuWare interface. I'm just going to touch on it again, so I'll take you quickly through the interface, and then we'll start discussing the different components applicable to this process. So in front of you, we've got a document tray. This is where we capture any external types of documents that are coming in. Later on, we'll show you the sample CAPA submission that we have here and how that's captured. We have search functions, so we've got multiple different file cabinets for different areas of our organization, potentially for different departments or for different business units or entities. The search dialog will allow us to execute searches into any of those over here. Then we've got lists. Lists are going to be our reports and our constant notifications of what's going on within our process. So you'll see here I can view all of the documents that are applicable to in the list. So documents that have been sent out, new policies, policies waiting review, policies that need to be read, all of my documents, etc. But I've also got now two lists here showing me low to moderate incidents and high and critical incidents. This, of course, can be broken down. You can have one separate list for each category here. You can have multiple different lists showing you any other information based on a particular status of a submission or process. So that is all very, very flexible. The tasks are what I'm going to touch on in a second. Workflow tasks, quite self-explanatory. When somebody submits an incident, I will receive a task potentially as a quality manager to then complete my review. Okay, so I'm now going to share my mobile phone screen. Okay. Now I've created a little mobile friendly type of web form here. So if somebody is out and about in an environment or a manufacturing environment, let's use that as an example, they might just pull up a web form to report an incident. So within a web form, the potential is really endless. I've got a few simple fields here, drop downs like department, all right, product and batch numbers, and you can execute searches into this and it'll filter what you're searching for. Then I can mark it as a certain severity level. I'm going to give this one a high severity level, and I'm going to give it an incident date of 14th of the 3rd. Now it pre-populated myself as the reporter as soon as I've logged in, right? And then I am going to do scribble text here just to get to 100 characters, but I wanted to show you that the potential of this field to make it a minimum of 100 characters is there. And then, of course, you can attach files, which can be photos of the incident, or it can be files that you've uploaded onto your mobile phone. And there can be a signature box here for somebody to complete. Right, I can then submit that task. All right, like I've shown you in the web browser, the same is applicable for the DocuWare mobile app. All right, so as soon as I open my DocuWare mobile app, it's going to show me all tasks that are applicable to me. Right, I can then again see those same lists that I showed you in the front end on the web browser. I can execute searches, and of course I can store documents from a document tray. For this particular incident report, okay, because I'm the system administrator, I can see all incidents in a particular status. I'm just going to go into one for the sake of the mobile app and show you that I can then make a decision of completing a root cause. It'll prompt me to fill out certain fields like what the risk factor is, what the root cause analysis, and what the corrective action plan is. Now I'm going to go back onto my desktop now, and I'm going to show you exactly the same thing from my desktop. I've got one, which is Quality Manager Review. Now, Quality Manager will be prompted here to fill out a risk factor. This can be a drop-down. This can be a guided data entry. For me, it's a numeric field that I can enter between 1 and 5, and that might mean something to my organization and might also determine what the next step in the workflow is. So the workflow is really, really dynamic. So anything that I input here can then take a separate, different route in the workflow. This one that I'm showing is pretty static, so I'm going to give it a root cause analysis and a corrective action plan, and I'll push confirm. You'll see I've got another task here that's already at a stage of corrective action plan. Now, this immediately comes up as a high impact incident. Okay, so this would potentially be assigned to the plant manager. Now, again, because it's me and I'm just looping the workflow back for the sake of the demo, this would have gone to the plant manager. You'll see that he now sees all the data that was completed throughout the process and can make his decision. These workflow steps on the left-hand side, again, completely configurable. Maybe you want this to take another route and you need that to be a manual decision. That can easily be implemented into this process. One thing I also want to show is the notifications. Throughout this process, I've been receiving email notifications, and over here, it's a notification saying, "Dear Jamie, there's an incident that has been reported. These are the high-level details of the incident." There's a link to your task, which takes you straight back into Docuware to that task view that I've shown you. And of course, we can attach the incident report to that. So really, really easy to notify and let people know, whether it's via email or via the mobile app. That speeds up the process significantly. And again, when I go into my lists, it's constantly giving me updates of high critical incidents, which the new one that I've just done has updated in there. It'll give you the status. So has it been escalated? Has the review been complete? What is the next stage in the process? So you've always got a view of this document. And then of course the low and moderate ones, so it automatically categorizes them into their own lists. Now, that is a little bit about the CAPA process. The workflow has completely determined what should happen next, and it's really saved me a lot of time in my organization. Now we can go back and have a look at the actual quality documents that are in my system. All right, so these are just a list of quality documents. Now we can link the two together, so we can link now the CAPA process back to what the policy document actually says for this procedure. So really, really easy to have everything all centralized in one system. David, I don't know if you want to jump back on there and just give your comments, any additions, anything I might have missed. Finding the unmute button. Okay, I think we might have lost David there.
I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. No, I was just asking for any input. Just to recap on that process, everyone. So this is effectively what has happened. What's really important here is that this can be fit into any nuance of a business process or organization requirement.
Yeah, I think where the real impact sits is in user experience, right? And we try to make it as simple as possible, and we try to customize the workflow to exactly what our customers need. So whatever flow you required in the business, we apply the workflow to those current rules and those current processes, and obviously take a look at any optimization that we can do. But the feedback from our customers are most certainly the fact that they can report so much easier, that it's easy for the users to use, and change management within the environment is minimal. And that gives us a great framework to continue to optimize the quality environment to make sure that you're 100% compliant, but also make sure that it adds value to the business.
All right. We'll jump onto Q&A. I'm not sure if there's any questions, Nick, that have come up so far.
Hi, Jamie. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions coming through now. Let me just have a quick look. So the first one is, how does Docuware assist with regulatory compliance across industries?
Sure, great question. I think, like David mentioned, it's a great solution to implement a framework with. So anything to do with policy documents, it's in a controlled, centralized environment. It goes through a full approval and approval cycle and workflow cycle. Everything and anything that happens during that process is recorded and then subsequently auditable. The same with the CAPA process. It is a defined process within a solution, and I think that's what's really important when we talk about compliance. It's not so much just to give the solution a stamp and say, well, this solution is ISO compliant. It is, but it's more about the process. It's more about how have we implemented the process and what are the measures that we put in place to be able to prove that this process is compliant. And that's what DocuWare does really, really well, is you can define this process down to the very last detail, and everything that you do within this process is auditable.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Another question coming through. How does DocuWare ensure the security and integrity of quality documents?
I'll pick that one. Yeah. Security and compliance very much related, right? GDPR has certain laws or requirements that it enforces us to do, and I need to firstly have a system in place that can prove compliance. So I want something with SOC 2 Type 2 certification and something with a proven track record. So from a security and a proven track record perspective, DocuWare is a great partner. We've been in the industry since 1988. We're fully compliant, SOC 2 Type 2 certified company, and I can list off the whole host of technical implementations that we have in place to ensure security. But the second part of that is permissions and the way that my process runs. I need to be able to show that I've got an audit trail. Of course, I can prove exactly who interacted in the process. I need to be able to prove that they couldn't circumvent that process. And then I need to make sure that everybody has access to information that's allowed to have access to that. And that is the way that we implement and consult with our customers to ensure that we implement in a compliant way. So those are the two areas that we're looking at, and DocuWare is a great partner in both those areas.
Great, thanks, guys. Next question is, can we track who accessed or edited a document for compliance purposes?
Yeah, I guess that question came up after we answered the previous one, but of course can touch on it again. DocuWare tracks every single action within the system, from when somebody logs into the system, or even every action that Jamie went through when he was setting this up. What did the administrator do? How did he interact with the system, and what changes did he make? So I can tell you exactly when somebody logged into the system, when they opened the document, viewed it. I can see when they've edited it, if they have the rights, and of course, which versions the person edited and what changes he's made to the document. So each and every single action is recorded. And that, on top of the way that my process works, and is it implemented in a compliant way, is the reason why auditing is easy and compliance is enforced.
Great, thank you. And there's a question just coming through now. Is it process compliant and compatible for ISO 9001, 14001, and 45001 standards?
Yes, and once again, just to expand on that slightly, there's various areas to that, and it's completely different for each industry, right? And that's why in the webinars we try to show you an holistic approach. So within manufacturing, they've got specific requirements what they need to complete, because it's not only the policy documents that we manage, but it's also how we're enforcing those policies. Some policies, of course, not enforceable by a document management system because it might require a time and attendance system internally. But absolutely, yes, we help our customers to be compliant. Once I have DocuWare implemented to manage my policy documents, plus forms for reporting any incidents within an environment where security is very much high, or whether I can prove that all of my employees have reviewed my policy documents. That's where DocuWare can greatly assist in making sure that I can prove that I am constantly checking my policy documents, forcing users to review them and report on the fact that they've reviewed them, and of course keeping a full audit trail about the creation of those documents and who has accepted them. So absolutely, yes, we have many customers using us for that purpose. DocuWare ourselves use, obviously, DocuWare for our compliance process, and even reporting on who has completed training, and even reporting on those critical areas within policy documents about how we enforce it onto the users. And we are, of course, very happy to engage with any one of you should you want to reach out after this webinar to discuss with you how DocuWare can fit in specifically in your business.
Thanks, David. No further questions. You can wrap up if you like.
Great. Thank you, Nick. David, thanks so much for jumping on. And to everybody out there, my contact details on the screen now. So if you need to reach out to me directly with further questions, or you'd like to set up a one-to-one so that we can discuss your specific requirements, be more than happy to do that. Just drop me an email. We will be reaching out with a little bit of a feedback request, if everyone's okay with that. So we'll be popping you guys a mail just to follow up and get your feedback on the webinar. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope you have a fantastic day further.